mean, again, the reports that I'm seeing on that, I don't really know how much. I think it's a little early to say who's leading the race for the quarterback position.
I think if you chop out that San Diego game, what did he really do last year? It was awful.
He looked great in the preseason, but so did Jabron Hampton. There it is. There it is. There it is.
Oh my God. Somebody in Vegas has a lot of money right now. Because they bet you couldn't work at Jabron Hampton.
Somebody bet I couldn't work at Jabron Hampton. Reference.
I got the perfect place for it. Because we talked about Allen getting in there.
Yeah.
Before, what we said was that the leash on McCarron was 10 games. Depending on what the record is at 10 games.
Because the bye week at week 6.
Bye week's 11.
Yeah. Or bye week at 11,
yeah.
right? So they have 6 games afterwards.
So we said, okay, so depending on whatever the record is, if they're 3-7, they're going to throw Allen in the fire because they have divisional games at the end and they're pretty much out of the playoff race. 4-6, depending on how the team's doing in the division and the conference. 5-5 or better, you're going to keep the guy in. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, you get a stretch run in the division.
Right.
What does the record have to be for McCarron or Peterman to get pulled prior to that?
2-6. At 2-6, you're pulling the ripcord. There's no point waiting anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you win 2-6.
2 out of 8, your first 8 games.
Exactly. I mean, you're looking at having to run the table at that point to make any noise. There's just no point. There's no point. You got to run the table.
So you think that after 8 weeks, if they're 2-6, they're going to throw the rook in and try to have him and Dable grow together.
Exactly. At that point, what are you losing at that point?
You have 8 preseason games prior to the next season, basically.
Yeah, essentially.
I like it.
You like that scenario? I mean, that's worst case scenario.
No, I like that thought process.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the Bills happen to be 2-6 at some point, pull the ripcord, put the rook in, let him learn for 8 games. He'll have half a season under his belt. Dable will have a full season under his belt. They can learn and grow and have film for the next season that they can learn and build off of.
My issue there, when you're just talking about record, is let's say the Bills win 3 out of the first 4, right? So now they're 3-1, but they drop the next 4 games. Bad. Now what do you do, right? Because you're still in the middle of that.
3-5.
Yeah, so now you're 3-5.
So you're not 2-6, you're 3-5.
Right, exactly.
You have had a streak.
But 3-5 when you win a lot of games early, I don't think is as sparkling a record as 3-5 when you're piecing wins together. Because you can still say, well, things are coming together. If you blitz out and win 3 out of your first 4 and then drop a bunch of games in a row, it's because the wheels are falling off the bus.
I think you'd still give them the start for the next 2 games.
You would? You'd get them to the bye week? See if you can get them to the bye week.
2-6 is a good record to pull the ripcord. 3-5. You still got a shot because then you can still go into the bye week 5-5,
right?
500,
right.
So even though the wheels are starting to fall off, that depends on how bad they've fallen off. Like if he has Taylor-esque 150 yard passing games, and they're getting destroyed.
And this is regardless of whether it's Peterman or McCarron.
Yes, it doesn't matter. A quarterback that's not Allen.
Okay.
If they come in and they're throwing a touchdown, 2 picks, 175 yards, and then they're losing the game 17-10.
Right.
All right. The defense is doing enough.
So let me ask this. Let's say they, are 3-5. Okay.
All right.
But we're talking about McCarron and Peterman putting up Joe Flacco-esque numbers.
Remind me of Joe Flacco-esque numbers.
1 touchdown. 1 interception, 210 yards a game. Okay? That's what you're getting. That's the production you're getting. Okay? However, let's say at this point, New England is undefeated. They haven't lost a game yet. Mm-hmm. So they're 8-0. And let's say Miami is 6-2.
And what are you?
You're 3-5.
Start the rook.
Okay. So it's not only about the win-loss record. That's my
no.
point.
Oh yeah, you got to
just expand the argument a little bit.
Yeah, you were just taking, like when we were talking about an argument before, you were just taking parameters out of it.
Right. So now let's bring the parameters back in.
Yeah.
There are external factors that are truthfully going to impact that. So while you can look at it and give a number on what record you would want, the fact remains is that you're going to make your decision, or at least I shouldn't say that they're going to. It would be in their best interest to make a decision based off of how the rest of the division is performing, especially since the last 6 games are against the division.
Yeah. Well, the Patriots are 8-0, Dolphins are 7-1, and you're 6-2. Do you pull them?
No. Well, at that point, no.
I was being stupid. Like, of course you're not gonna. You're not gonna pull. You're 6-2. Like, but I think if you to your point, if they're putting Joe Flacco-esque numbers up, if they're throwing for over 200, 1-1 a game, I don't think they're going to lose.
Because you think they're just going to control the clock?
I think there's going to be about 170 yards rushing a game, about 250 yards passing, 225. And they're going to create some turnovers this year. I think that defense is going to be a turnover monster.
Well, and that's where this team got off to the start they did last year, because the defense was generating so many turnovers, and turnovers for points. And when that dried up, what happened? It started losing games. And it was the same thing that happened when the Bills won all those games under Fitzpatrick. It's not that, were his numbers great? Sure, but the Bills were getting extra possessions in opponent territory. Like we talked about it on the show when we were back on Blog Talk about the opponent's starting field position. Remember we had this whole field position discussion that the Bills were winning because they were often starting with the ball at midfield because of the average position of where they would start. They would generate a turnover, get it at the 20, of the opponent's 20, and that's, you better score if you're starting at the opponent's 20, right? So I think last year they got a little boost from the turnover machine that was happening, because the Bills were really generating a ton of turnovers last year at the beginning of the season, and then it fell apart. Those dried up. Those were gone after a while. So you think you're going to see the same thing? You're going to see a ton of turnovers from this defense?
I believe that defense is set up to create turnovers. The way that they're going to, because they're going to put constant pressure with 4 and then have 7 in coverage. And the 7 that they have in coverage with Davis, Gaines, Bush, Poyer, Hyde, White, and that maniac Edmonds in the middle, that's a lot of speed, that's a lot of talent, that's a lot of one-year deals.
Yeah, it is. There was a quote, because you bring up the defense, there was a quote from Brandon Beane about Shaq Lawson. So,
didn't Shaq say something about being on a contract year or something? Was that the quote? Shaq said something about being on a contract year, I think.
Yeah, no, that's not it. So I'll tell you what it is. And I'll give credit where credit's due. This is quoted from a interview with Matthew Fairburn, who really does great work.
Yes.
He's done a great job. He's over at The Athletic now. So this is what Brandon Beane said about Shaq Lawson. I didn't know Brandon Beane would ever talk about a player. Ever. Like, he's always so general statement.
He didn't bring him in either.
No, he didn't. So he's got no loyalty to him. He doesn't care.
Yeah.
Right? So this is the quote from Brandon Beane. Shaq is a guy that this franchise put a lot of stock in with the first-round pick. It's no secret he hasn't lived up to that. Sean and I are very frank. We try not to be rude, but we don't beat around the bush. We laid out the expectations for Shaq. I think he's done a real good job to this point, but we have a lot to go. We're off for 5 weeks. What he's going to do in those what is he going to do in those next 5 weeks? That sounds terrifying to me. That is terrifying, because that's him telling you, yeah, he's done fine. We don't know what's going to happen when he's not here. We don't know what he's going to do.
That just lit a fire under him for 5 weeks.
Well, that's what you're hoping.
Yeah.
Right? You're hoping that. But, like, he was injured. And then when he did play, he wasn't very effective. I didn't love Shaq Lawson anyway. For the pick that they got him at, you're like, okay, this guy he'll play. He'll play.
Yeah.
He'll play. But if he's got no drive to be great, and that's what gets you out of that building. is if you have no drive to be
It's tough
good,
to get you out of the building because then the rest of the team, the rest of the league knows that.
well, they still also have guaranteed money tied up in them. So whether you'd have, even if you trade him, trading him is the only way you're going to get anything for him. If you cut him, you still got to pay him all the guaranteed money. That rookie contract, you're going to have to pay him anyway.
Yeah, that's why trades always made me laugh, because you're trying to trade a guy, you're trying to sell someone something that you don't want, but you have to extol it. Well, it'd be so great. Why'd you keep him? No, we're not keeping him.
Well, there's been some good trades that have worked out for the Bills. You know, like the Jerry Hughes trade. I don't love Jerry Hughes, but let's be honest with you. You traded Calvin Shepard for him. You did a good job. You won. You won that one.
For both first rounders. Let's swap them.
Remember Thad Lewis? We got Thad Lewis from the Lions for a linebacker that we were going to cut.
Yeah, the linebacker going to go into the Patriots.
Yeah. Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Oh. Oh, well.
Jackback.
But Thad Lewis was a great pick for the Bills. He, you know, for what he was supposed to be, that was a great trade. What? What are you side-eyeing me for?
Did you just say Thad Lewis was a great pick for the Bills?
Yeah, he was a great trade for the Bills. He ended up starting a bunch of games. He won a couple games.
Are you on any prescription medication?
I am not on any prescription medication. But remember, these were the E.J. Manuel years. So anybody else was a good quarterback. Any other trade was a good quarterback.